Recorded October 23rd, 2025. Good afternoon, Rodney. Good afternoon, Frank. How you doing?
I was kind of wondering that myself. Franklin is something. He's here. I can't see him, but
Franklin.
I am on. I'm traveling, so I don't have video today. I'm in Florida.
yeah, that's good. I just wanted to explain that for the folks that just listen, because people watching are the only ones that really care about that, I think. But hey, great show last week. I wasn't here for our first show back, but it was a great show. It was awesome. You guys did a great job. Our guest was awesome.
Yep.
I assume we're going to have some additional guests in the future. In fact, we were just talking about that. But since I wasn't on for our first show back, I thought I'd just kind of share what I did over the summer. And I can do that in like 10 seconds or less.
Well, since we don't have guests today, you can take your time. There's no need to rush. Go ahead, man.
No, I can't even think back that far. I can't think back that far. The whole summer. And you know what? The funny thing was, I loved the vacation. It wasn't really vacation. Still working hard. This role I am in at work is a lot of work, a lot of busy work. Different from the role I was in, obviously, before. But it did feel kind of like a vacation because we didn't do the show for like the whole summer. But you know what? I really, really, really started missing it really bad.
Yeah, I did too. I missed it to the point where it's the first week or two that we were off. I was rushing upstairs thinking I was late for the show, not remembering that we took the summer off and I'm jumping on.
You know what I did? I put cutouts of you and Brody and everything right here at my desk, and I pretended that I did the show just so I wouldn't get out of practice.
I tell you what I did. I listened to a lot of the other shows that we listen to that we admire, like some of the other podcasts, and listened to them and supported their shows. And then the first month or so, to sort of help me, my Jones and my fix, I would go onto the blog, I would write a few things, throw a couple of episodes in there. But then again, my wife said, "Hey, I thought the show was off. If the show is off, the show is off.
Yeah.
Rod needs some time off. Brody needs some time off. You need some time off. Frank's coming back. Go back and you will miss the show." And she's right. And we made some changes. We're back. We're on Thursdays. It gives us more time to understand the cybersecurity landscape as it happens through the week. Because on a Monday, what really happened over the weekend, right? And then
it's kind of like, it reminds me of, if you remember way back in the day, I'm sure we have some younger listeners, but they may not remember. Remember when they moved Seinfeld to Thursdays? It turned into must-watch TV Thursday, and it skyrocketed. So I'm expecting that to happen to our show as well.
Yeah, and Thursdays is a better day. Coming back Monday, it's always a fire drill or emergency or something like that. And it also gives us the ability, to work and then come back, because I had some questions for Frank, and definitely you and I talked about some Sentinel stuff, but that was a different thing, right? So Frank is on the road traveling, doing all his stuff. The world of cybersecurity out there is all over the place. But I will give you this. This is our public service announcement. October is Cybersecurity Awareness Month. It is. This is the first out of 5 years of doing the show. This is only the second year that we really didn't get people to come on to talk about it. The first year we didn't, and this time we didn't have guests. And we're not having guests right now, not because we're not getting guests back on. We had some guests that were previously scheduled. We decided to take the summer off. It wouldn't be fair and just to make sure they have to give the first right of refusal to get ready to come back in. And plus, there's been a plethora of individuals who have reached out to us individually, who are asking, "Hey, I'd like to come and be on the show," right? And so some changes that, I'll go ahead and reiterate the changes we've had to the show. We were generally doing a show on Mondays. We obviously, if you're here and you're listening now, you will listen later on. The show is now on Thursdays at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The second thing is we were doing a show once a week. We wanted to reduce the frequency of the show so that we have more time to bring in more collateral, give more leeway and planning time for our guests who may not be as flexible, being able to do something in a week, or if we needed to reschedule or repivot because there was a prevailing cybersecurity topic that needed to be talked about. So as such, we're going to be doing the show twice a month. So every other Thursday. Now, this first cycle is a little bit off. We did one last week. We did this week. Now we'll take 2 weeks off, and then we'll get into the 2-week cycle. And that allows us to be able to take in information, topics. We're going to try to revitalize our Discord channel. So if you're sending something in, Noodle, if you're out there, man, jump back on. We got to get Nathan Swift back involved because he wants to help moderate our Discord channel and just some changes. The top level theme months will remain. We will do Women in Cyber next year. We will attempt to have our Christmas episodes where we get guests to come back on, previous guests to come back on and do their best ugly sweater impersonations. And we will have Tech Heavy Month, which is one of our more successful theme months where it's all demos, super heavy. Those months may deviate a little bit where we go back to a show a week during those theme months. But for the majority of the year, we're going to go twice a month. If there's a certain months that have more than 5 Thursdays in it or something like that, we'll figure it out. I'm looking at my calendar behind my head. We'll see. So those are the show announcements, what we're doing. And then in reality, we just started going back to the way we were, other than the frequency of it. And I'm happy to be back.
Yeah.
Frankly, it is in your travels. Are you able to chime in a little bit, or is it too much noise on your private jet?
I'm just recovering from a game of golf today where 3 80-year-olds embarrassed me for the entire time. So,
oh, that's right. You golfing
Did
with Dad?
You should have got pictures. That would've been great.
oh yeah,
You tell Dad I say hello. You know I'm his favorite.
I know.
Tell him
No,
I say hello.
I'm excited to be back. I know a lot of people don't know me because I've been off the show for quite some time. But I'm excited to be back because I think there's so much going on and so much to learn, and so much that I want to get out there. So I'm excited to be back and get going and putting out content.
One of the biggest things that we entered the show, the new shiny was getting extremely shiny. And I'll be the first one to say I thought that the shiny would have dulled by now, but it hasn't. Artificial intelligence. For whatever you feel about what it is. And we're not talking about a product, anybody's company product. We're talking about just the technology arena around AI. And one of the things I want to do is, like, if you're going to say it, don't be late. It's artificial intelligence. I'll beat it out at you. If you're going to keep saying AI, you're taking a long, easier off. Say artificial intelligence, and then you'll get how to say it talking about artificial intelligence. And there seems to be more companies you can shake a stick at. If you have a stick to shake at companies about what they believe that it is. And we're not talking about the major players in this, because it seemed to be 5 major, and then you have probably like 3 secondary and a gazillion tertiary. But when you talk about the big 5, you're talking about Micro, AW, GC, OpenAI, Meta, and then you look at secondaries. This is highly opinionated to me. You start looking at people like X. You start looking like not the consumer type of AI industries, but the people that affect it. Now, when you start talking about not a direct AI product, but the ability to support it, NVIDIA's in everybody's mouth right now.
Yeah.
But now you start to see some of these other chip makers say, hey, you can't beat them at that game. How about we innovate the way that we do it? But this show brings value because no matter how you approach artificial intelligence, you're going to have to secure it and you're going to have to govern it. And you and I had a very interesting conversation about the topic that I put on this card, Rod, that I need to write about.
Here, hold it closer. Hold it closer so I see if I can remember. Oh, yeah. That keeps me up at night. That really scares me. So Frank can't see that picture, Bo, by the way.
Yeah. So for those who are not watching live, I just held up a little sticky card or something that Rod and I was talking about. How do we talk about securing artificial intelligence from an agnostic perspective? Like, no problem. And one of the bigger risks that I thought, but Rod was like, hey, this is a bigger risk, and this is something that scares me to death. Non-human entities are these agentic offerings that are coming from everybody. you have to really not think of them as a tool set that is an inanimate object when it has the same ability to do what a biological do. So one of the things when I did a speaking engagement security here in Atlanta about a month ago, a little less, about agents being converted, agents being compromised, agents becoming double agents in your environment. And I know that the topic of the show that we're looking at is pumpkin patch phishers, and the ability for agents to do these sophisticated phishing attacks is it's alarming. I won't say scary, even though it's Halloween. I could say scary. It's alarming. And Rod, you have some insight. Well, Frank, are we off on what we deem is probably something that needs to be hyper considered as everybody rushes to become the next? You know, they jumped on a surfboard. They're getting on the second wave of artificial intelligence, and eugenic technology seems to be the thing that people are using to do differentiating offerings. I see this as a huge security surface exposure. What are your thoughts on it, Franklin?
I think that if you understand the architecture and everything involved with it, and you have your security teams involved with it, it's just another attack vector that you have to deal with. You know, a lot of people don't like to have me say that, but to me, after understanding everything, but I don't think people are going to look at securing identity, securing networks, securing data, and understanding how LLMs play into the whole architecture, and MCP. Even when you look at MCP, it still comes down to securing compute, securing identities, securing data, securing network, and then understanding the LLM as a new threat vector.
Yeah.
Well, I think, and just to kind of expound on that, I think Frank mentioned something I think it's key, and that is the MCP server, which adds context between embedding somewhat for the prompts and the results.
But before we go on, MCP, enlighten me.
Definitely not MVP. Definitely not MVP.
Yeah. Well, not yet, right? So MCP server is a server that sits between the chat bot or the chat interface, whatever you want to call it, and the data source. There was one announced recently that Microsoft even released for Sentinel, which adds the context. That's the prompt. It adds additional context so that the results come back. Let me give you a great example of what I'm talking about before we start digging into these agents, just so you understand how volatile these could potentially be. While we were in Nashville last week, I spoke at a conference. My wife and my youngest daughter were with me, but my wife never listens to my technology recommendations, but for some reason this time she did. She started using Grok last week on her iPhone, and she literally talks. She just has conversations with Grok constantly. We were sitting here today, and I said, I think the Bengals play tonight on Thursday Night Football. I was wrong. They don't play till Sunday. I forgot who actually played today. I said, I don't know what time they start. She asked Grok. Grok told her that the Bengals game started at 8:45 tonight. And I'm like, oh, cool. So I came back to my desk, started working, realized that the Bengals don't play till Sunday. Grok, because of what it is, because generative AI is essentially just a genie, right? It wants to grant you all three wishes.
Mm-hmm.
It told me that it told her the game started at 8:45. That's what we were planning on. And it assumed that, it didn't do the due diligence to recognize that the Bengals was not playing tonight. Now, think about that. I don't know that Grok is using an MCP server or not, but whatever it utilized as that data source, it either misread it, overlooked it, or just literally didn't care because it wanted to please my wife to tell her when the Bengals game started tonight. Now,
it's just trying to put you out of your misery in watching the Bengals.
Yeah, it's trying to help me. I get it. But think about that from an agent perspective, right? If you can't trust the responses of generative AI, and a lot of times they have to be vetted by a human. If you can't trust those responses, then how can you trust that an agent is going to act in your behalf appropriately if the responses that come back are not always accurate?
What you make an interesting thing that Frank has been trying to beat into my head for the last 3 months. More than that, actually, he's given me some great research stuff. I've read some of it, listened to some of it. I need to go back and take it much more seriously with more diligent effort. You have to understand the underlying architecture beyond the consumption model of the chat face interface, right? We're used to interfacing with it from a consumer perspective, but if we're going to be actual advisors to this technology on how to consider the security ramifications, because one thing I want to get away from is trying to say I can secure your artificial intelligence endeavors, and that you don't know that. You can make effort, but you don't know if you can secure it or not, because I wrote a little tagline. I'm gonna put it on my little blog, and I'll put it on our page here. Agents want to mingle. They want to mingle. They want to get along. Agents want to have happy hour because they want to talk to an entity that looks, acts, sounds, and does the things that they do. And so you're seeing all these companies talking about agent interoperability, regardless of what platform you're on. You're acting as an arbitrator, or are you acting as the person that flips the agent? Like, think of Spycraft, which is on the card. So look forward to the blog and the paper that Rod, Frank, and I are going to write about Agent Spycraft, because it's a Spycraft that's coming up. That how can I flip you or convert? What's the term when you turn an agent? Like you grab a physical agent from an intelligent agent. Do you convert them, flip them? I don't know what you call them. Frank, you know.
All right, so let's do this for everyone listening.
Yeah.
Define what an agent is.
Okay. I will give you my definition straight without using artificial intelligence. I'm not finna run through this. Here's Edward Walton meager understanding and definition of what an agent is. In the realm of artificial intelligence, an agent is a technology solution that amplifies automation and duty and task synchronization based on a subset of programmable capabilities and an underlying data set, aka X language model, small language model, large language model, medium language model, hyper language model. It has a series of permissions that it can execute tasks based on this realm of understanding and realm of authority to go do. It is hyper automation done by a deliberate programming entity in the back.
So let me ask you this. Your definition is basically the agent. The agent is compute that accepts a prompt, queries an LLM, and then based upon the response from the LLM, performs tasks, which could be based upon an MCP server.
The MCP server is a source of consideration so that when you are looking at it, it is trying to find the most relevant language model or index of information to give you the most appropriate answer based on your prompt and or request.
But here's the rub, right? I don't care if you have an MCP server. I don't care what your data source is, because, obviously there's continuous improvement, continuous development of those LLMs. However, you can ask the same question, a prompt that you have vetted 100 times for a response. You could ask it one time and you're going to get a different response.
So there's probabilistic systems versus, I guess they call it deterministic systems. So some people are using LLMs the wrong way, and the systems that are in place are going to be just fine. Okay, so give me an example, right? I set up an MCP server so basically I said, okay, well, the server, but the client, the agent, okay. I said, give me Frank's magic number divided by 20 or whatever, right? And the fact is that the LLM is not going to know what Frank's magic number is. It has to hit the MCP server to get the magic number, right?
Right.
and different LLM, different models would actually either completely fail, would understand the MCP server, go out and give the call for the number. Some of them, so it changed just based upon the model. So you have to do a fair amount of model testing to figure out which one is the right model for what you're trying to accomplish. And the other thing is here is that we're thinking that prompts are text-based. Prompts themselves, you have to start thinking that prompts can be screenshots, can be video, can be audio, can be whatever. So just don't limit it to chat. So there is the LLM vector and the probabilistic returns that are there, and how you're going to link it to those other tools, and let the LLM know about the other tools, and make those calls. But the bottom line is that still is all, when you take a look at, let's say, the AZ500 certification, that is still all basic identity, data, networking, compute, and then add in the LLM attack vector that you have to secure. But it's up to the testers to understand, hey, listen, let me validate as much as we can from a probabilistic standpoint how the LLM is going to return on the prompt.
Yes, and here's what I like: we can all be right, and your thing is the what I believe. I won't believe what I have an opinion of is that you're having to account for a high level expertise across security domains that not one person can be a master of all. So you're asking these developers to either understand, even at a low level, the ramifications of identity security, compute security, data repository storage and access, and we're not, and then networking. So the major risk, in my very myopic opinion, is that because the evasiveness of artificial intelligence touches everything that makes up everything. Because when you need it, you need it. It's just like you said, Frank. You need identity, storage, compute. Compute could be defined as RAM, CPU, whatever it may be, network, and other factors in it. And so because artificial intelligence uses all this to ultimately give you what it is, you have to have someone or some. I'm finding people trying to go out and hire a unicorn. If you go and look at these job sites, they're trying to hire a chief. God, what's that thing?
So there's a difference between validating an LLM and then securing your overall application like you would any other application, but with this new attack vector. So I don't think security needs to be as involved in the LLM validation, which Rod is talking about with getting different responses.
Well, it depends. Well,
there's red teaming the LLMs, which Azure Foundry does give you the ability to do. That's the attacked vector of the LLM. But like giving my example, give me Frank's magic number. Does this LLM work with that or not? That's a validation thing that I don't think it's security's responsibility from an expected result standpoint.
Well, okay, I agree with you. You're saying that the validity of the information that is the consideration source point is not the. I can't go secure your LLM and integrity, not the integrity of the data, but the validity of the data to be accurate, right? That's not my job as a security person. If you put it in there, it's supposed to be accurate. I think a security person's job is to make sure nothing violates the two other things that a security practitioner does. The confidentiality of the data and the integrity of the data. That's that. The accuracy of the data is a different thing. If you put it in there and you give me all these data, and I need to make sure that nobody's modified the data to the point where it represents one of the attack vectors. What is data poisoning? I don't think prompt injection is in that thing, but it's two other attack vectors to say I will make your LLM, a liability because I go in and I've changed the validity of the data that's in it or the accuracy of it. So it goes back to what I'm saying. We all are right here. Is just that now I'm seeing people trying to hire roles, and I saw one that says, give me a second here. It was a chief artificial intelligence reliability officer. Cairo. Is that what Cairo? Some I'm like, what is even in that? I got a piece of paper here. I'm like, so I thought, oh, here, there's CAIRO. The urgent need in this country.
Yeah. Forecaster. That job you can never do.
It says this is a feature focus from a magazine, ISSA security, magazine. The urgent need for a chief artificial intelligence risk officer, CAIRO. So I said it right. And so when you look at this, you're inserting yet another, and we don't know if this is a C-suite level position, because some people argue you to this day that the CISO, Chief Information Security Officer, is not a C-suite level. Yeah. Oftentimes it reports to the CIO, the CTO, the CFO. Very rarely have I seen the CISO sit at the table with the bean counters, the decision making, and everything else. And we've argued this on the show every year that we've had it. Right. If I'm a CISO and I got to report to the CIO, I don't want the job. Right. I want to report to the CEO. And I definitely don't want to be a chief information security officer just reporting to the CFO. That's a recipe for disaster. To do that.
That job required 25 years of experience.
Yeah. You need to have 19 years of artificial intelligence experience. Like I do. You've got machine learning and
well, I mean, it's been around for a while, just not as much the LLM side. Yeah. When you talk about AI, artificial intelligence, there's still a lot of people when they say that they're really talking about the LLM side, but
ML and stuff. Yeah.
Well, getting back to the title of the show, where we're talking about pumpkin patch Phishers, one thing that I saw that was disturbing in one of the blogs, might have been CyberWire, might have been something else, is that the alarming way that people are using artificial intelligence to create phishing campaigns. It is, if you're not using AI to defend yourself, hence if you were watching the show live and you watch it later on, my tagline says, if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. Because that's what we keep saying hackers and APTs and stuff. To them, they're not the bad guys, right? But when you look at it, you have to use artificial intelligence if you do nothing else to detect what artificial intelligence is. And it's getting better. It is actually getting better when you can use multiple AI models from a consumer base to create sophisticated attack campaigns based on whatever threat perspective you want to be. And Frank, you being our subject matter expert on technical skilling around security, both from writing exams, helping contribute to exam content and everything, I'm finding it that these skilling mechanisms are falling way behind. You're seeing more people trying to sell product rather than knowledge on how to do it. Buy this thing, it will secure your environment. Install this product, it will secure your environment. Put this control in place, it will secure your environment. But I very rarely see someone talk about, you need to go to this course. And I don't mean a webinar to buy your widget to install it in my environment so that it supposedly is going to protect me. If you don't have a fundamental understanding, that's what you told me, Frank, 3 months ago. Edward, you do not have a fundamental understanding of how artificial intelligence works. You need to go get the fundamentals. And then I went through it. I started reading it. I'm like, oh crap. I am out of my water to understanding what is going on here. And so when you see people sell you these products, correct me if I'm wrong, even our listeners, they're telling you how to secure their product. Very rarely is it agnostic. So when you buy a solution from a place and they're selling you the condition and they're selling you the cure. Yeah, we know that they're inherent AI. I say AI, I pinch myself. They're inherent artificial intelligence liabilities. But if you buy a cure, you're fine.
One of the things I'm seeing about there in the training world is a lot of people are now like, hey, securing your environment with AI or this with AI. You'll see the words with AI on the end of the courses now that they already had to begin with. And they're just throwing in with AI on the end of it, which is driving me crazy because they're not really, they're thinking that people are going to take the courses now because it says with AI and there's really no value there for it. Right. So, talking to the individuals out here on the podcast, you have to understand a lot of stuff out there is what I say meat, different gravy. Right. So if you go out there and you spend time, and Microsoft has published a lot of information, um, Azure Foundry, MCP servers, all that fun stuff. Microsoft has done a really good job at publishing information. So it is up to you as the security professional to go out there and work with inside all of these environments and learn what they are, and then learn about how to secure them. And then once you realize, hey, it's just compute, it's just data, it's just networking, it's just identity. How am I going to, when my boss comes to me and says, hey, secure this application, I'm going to already know how. I understand all of the puzzle pieces involved, what the threat vectors are, and how to secure them. And don't worry about all these courses out there that now have with AI on the end of it. Go out there, learn the bare bones using Azure Foundry to do that, and you will be ahead of everyone else at implementing this. But still, it always comes back down to the basics that you'll learn in AZ 500.
And when you're talking about the AZ500, that is a Microsoft security exam based on cloud security. Is probably one of the more difficult exams out there. Do not let it expire, people. Keep it current. Don't let it expire. You don't want to have to take it again. And AI can help you. I agree with you, Franklin. But Rod, I'll ask you a question. Are you seeing the adoption of different AI solutions reduce their ability to be an effective generalist? Meaning, I find it that you're going to have people are becoming subject matter experts in certain platforms because everybody's going to a platform. Palo Alto wants a platform, Google wants a platform, AWS wants a platform, Microsoft wants a platform. So a person now is being looked at is how much practical experience do you have on this platform? Because if you come back and say that you're a subject matter expert or industry, if you're a guru and you tell me you're a guru across all these things, I'm going to ask you to take your hat off so I can see the horn in the middle of your head because you're a unicorn. And so I think that is inadvertently creating very specialized that because these big players are making you go all in on them. Don't use anybody else. And so while we got to a point where people were using multi-cloud, multi-solution, you're finding that you're starting to have a huge withdrawal of their footprint so they can hire the person who's going to be most effective. I look at trends that are not directly related to the technology. And right now, the trends that I'm watching right now, outside of finance and investing on a big scale, I'm looking at what the training and what the skilling and what the hiring is looking like.
Yeah, that's interesting that you kind of have that take, because yes, I believe you're right, and I think this is where you're going with that. It has really changed because of all these platforms. You don't have a true security person or true security role anymore. It's a platform person, and that really limits the market, but it also limits your, as an employed person, limits your capability and your advancement, not just in the industry, but if you decided, if something happened to your job at your existing role, you would literally have to go find another job just for that platform instead of, because if you look at the roles that are generally open for organizations, you go to LinkedIn or some of the other ones, and you look for new jobs, it's going to say, hey, you need to have this type of security skill set with this number of years, and this is what we're looking for. They don't say, hey, you need to have security in AWS. They just say security, right?
Yeah, and when you go to some of the places that train, like I know that Franklin is a huge fan. Well, I won't say huge fan, but he's a friend of of testing your overall cybersecurity prowess by taking the SANS GX certifications. I'm watching them now, and I'm not finding them as relevant as they used to be. Certain of them are always going to transcend and be relevant because they address a particular problem. The endpoint is always going to be a problem. So we're looking at the forensic 508, the bane of my existence. It's always going to be relevant for doing investigations. But when you start looking at cloud security, start looking at these things, nobody's updated to the point where they have a relevant course or information on how to secure it when artificial intelligence has been introduced into your operational consideration, right? Because what is done, I see by talking to peers in the field, it makes the practitioners more at risk by the decision thought makers. You chose that platform. Now I got to go back and cash the check that you wrote out of my butt to being able to do these things. And don't be a multi-global organization. And then don't be an organization that develops their own artificial intelligence offering. Like banks have had artificial intelligence in some form or fashion forever. They've already had their models. That's how they keep coming out with different credit card offerings and all this other stuff, right? And so I'm really hyper focused on the job market from a security standpoint and how to secure artificial intelligence initiatives and the senior leadership requirements. You know, nobody's going to admit it, and I don't have a scientific percentage. I'm just going to pull something out of my butt. Half of the chief information security officers and chief information security officers and whomever else is going to have some type of overall responsibility for the security deployment of artificial intelligence are woefully unprepared. They have no clue what they're doing. They don't know what they're doing. And it's not their fault because the bean counters, they told this, and we coined the phrase on this show, COFOMO, corporate fear of missing out. You cannot be the company that does not use AI in some form or fashion, even if it's real or not. And so now the CIO is tasking the security people, we got to use this. You guys better make sure it's secure. But you don't know what secure is until it happens. So artificial intelligence security, I don't want to use the word breach, but
so I'm going to disagree with you here. The CISOs, security architects, they have all the tools they need. They just have not been has not been simplified in breaking out the areas to secure in there. They just don't realize that yet. I think the biggest issue is the ROI in implementing the systems. This is just another application. You know, when you go and you put an application in place, because I've been an app developer for 40 years too, you know, 1/3 of the room wants you to fail, 1/3 of the room wants you to be successful, the other third of the room wants you to go, you know, just want to go to lunch, right? And so, you know, there is a lot about application, implementation, and success management and expectations that I think are probably unrealistic right now about understanding what this is going to provide. So I see the bigger issue under application expectation management dealing with. So, give you an example. When CRM was the big hit out there, right? Every single executive said, okay, sales people, so we're going to implement a CRM system. You have no choice. Right? So someone would like me would come in, do the implementation, and it would fail. So why would it fail? Right? It's because the sales manager or the VP of sales didn't want the system, right? So it was not the technology that was the problem. It was the user adoption, the acceptance, and the people process of doing this, right? So back when I was doing CRM, if I'd walk in and I could tell that the sales manager did not want this application, I would not do the project. I was burnt too many times by sales managers working against me on doing an implementation. Okay. So you have to look at the dynamics of putting an application in place. I don't think that organizations should be scared from the security standpoint because this is a lot of the basics that they have to deal with. Yes, there is LLM validation that needs to be done, but that's once again on the app team, not the security team. Yes, there are guardrails and other things like that. I understand that. But application expectations, you know, people management, that's really huge. But security, the security side, so the expectations, security CISOs, they should realize, hey, we can handle this. Let's just go to the foundations of this. And then, even when you look at the security products or tools that are coming in today, you have to set the right expectations for them, and you'll be fine for what they're providing.
I have to disagree with you. But we can both be right and we can both be wrong for sure. I will not stand back. I'm not, like I said, I don't have, the empirical data or measurement methodology to back what I said. This is just me talking and being out and reading and going to events. Whereas you see a lot of people that are responsible for security who said, I wish I had a better or more say in the delivery and adoption of artificial intelligence. And I was talking to a guy, we were talking football, and it goes to work. And I saw something and I said, you know what this looks like? To a security person, you're on defense most of the time, right? It looks like you're playing a game of football and the offense has 14 people on the field and you got 11 because they keep adding more people to the field than you can defend. And that's what he took that. He said, I am going to take that to the meaning. You told me to play defense, but the offense keeps adding more people to the field. And now could you stop 14 people with 11-person defense? Not for long, because the offense adapts. And you can adapt all you want, but you're just going to be outgunned and outmanned. And when you're deploying these things,
But how is that different than before we had LLMs? I mean, CISOs felt that way anyways, right? And that's why you end up with a risk management side of deciding how you're going to play those people, and what you're probably going to end up possibly letting through from the risk management side.
I think you're looking at it from a perspective of it's going to happen anyway, so deal with it. But look at the pushback of the cloud. Look how long it took for the adoption of the cloud, and then when it was no longer you get a choice in it. This is where we're going to the cloud. People inherently thought the cloud was more secure than being on premise, and in many ways it was. But what you don't hear about is the plethora of breaches that were cloud related. And you when you look at it, all breaches, not all breaches, but a majority of them is because of, identity type stuff. People don't break firewalls anymore. And yeah, you can break the operating system because you found 0-day or something, but it's more along people doing stuff they shouldn't have or didn't know they should not have done. But when you look at it, you are hyper accelerated in application. I will stop talking about artificial intelligence as though it is some net new technology that's never existed before. It's just hyper densified application performance, whatever it may be. But now this thing is faster and stronger and has more corporate buy-in than a lot of things. Because one thing you could say, and maybe I'm wrong with this, we've been doing this a long time, there was almost a unilateral pushback against adoption of the cloud. Everybody was sort of, from the CEO, CIO, everybody like, oh, because they were old school. You're not putting my stuff in the cloud. I don't even know what a cloud is. But now you see,
So there's a lot of pushback because there's two sides of this, right? Pushback from people protecting their jobs, and then the other side of it is people doing resume building, right?
yeah, that's a fact.
So those are the two sides, right? Hey, I don't want the cloud because I could take my job to, hey, let's implement the cloud because that's going to help build my resume. So in the world of development, we used to call that resume driven development, versus anything else, because you're out there for your resume. So, I mean, I don't know where to go with this, but there's there's a lot of people that want to do AI to build their resume.
Well, hell, I'm one of them because I understand that I want to stay in this industry for as long as I can because one, I like what I do. I like the uncertainty of what's coming next. I like helping people, right? And you look at it, and I'm sympathetic to the people that do what all three of us do. You're not looked at a security person who gets up in the morning like, "Ooh, Lord, my day was so easy. oh my God, I'm stealing money. I'm just not doing anything today. That's. I mean, I look at any chief information security officer as a tennis player. You're just trying to hold serve. You know, if you play tennis, all you trying to do is hold serve. Or you used to tell me, Frank, you're trying to make the adversary punt the ball, punt, and be able to do it. And
So
maybe
my thing is this: is people that are security right now should go to the app developers that are doing LLM applications and say, tell me the identity that's being used from every single agent and every single tool, and map that out for me, and prove to me that that's the identity that's being used.
and how's that
In the
happened?
past.
How's that worked out in the past when you went to an application developer and told them to do this stuff? How well has secure the development lifecycle even work? Even this day and time, we've been talking about this. Frank, you and I know each other 6 years, 7 years now, and we talked about app development. How has that worked out? That when you go try to get developers to do something, when they tell you, here's the timeline, here's the
No,
sprint.
no, it's worked out because you're like, okay, tell me about the managed identities that you're using, and they're like, oh no, we just have hard coded this in, or no, no, why aren't you using a managed identity? So why aren't you using Key Vault, right? So those sort of things. So starting with identity first, is definitely a key place to be and understand. Is are you impersonating somebody through the process, and what's going on with that. So start with identity and some of the things that Alistair talked about last week. So that's just the starting point of dealing with that. But you're still dealing with LLMs, which is an attack vector. You're dealing with compute, networking, data, and identity. It's all the same basic
And,
stuff.
and we haven't really got that down to a point where it's an industry, and I would assume that we're mistakenly. Rod is doing it. I'm doing it. We're talking in the context of enterprise. We're not even talking about major businesses or small to medium-sized businesses who are sort of being semi-forced to say you got to adopt it too, whether you can afford it or not, whether you have the skills to secure it or not, whether you can actually effectively deliver it or not. So I want to make sure that we're talking and we understand that we're talking in a very biased way because we work in enterprise accounts. We work in big companies of a sort. So when you look at it that way, the security arena out there, while it's made tremendous leaps and bounds, it is still the same old things that haven't. Will artificial intelligence adoption finally push the low-hanging fruit to be 100% adopted? You still got surveys that are coming back that people are not implementing MFA. And so when you're talking about getting out of putting secrets, username and or passwords embedded into the code for convenience to using key vaults and other secret management, here's what is happening. You're just shifting the risk to another aspect of the operational parameter, meaning now you have overprivileged managed identities. Starting to see it. People are attacking their managed identities. And they're attacking it, say that if I can do this particular thing, this identity is so overmanaged. It's like me getting keys to the kingdom. Now, those attack vectors are not easy, but they're not implausible. They're very plausible.
No. I mean, it's definitely there's a get a remote shell on a VM. Use the managed identity for the VM to go and go from the you know from the VM to the management plane. So there's definitely those are well known
Mhm.
vectors that are out there
And
that
I
you
don't
have
know
to
if you
watch for.
I don't know if you're seeing this. It seems to be we all cover different cybersecurity channels. We follow different people. There seems to be an increased attack on containers, attacking
Because
Kubernetes.
containers is just another it's
Yeah.
just more compute, and then you're just going for the management layer after
Yeah.
that. So it's the same thing over and over again. One of the things that one of the courses I say AZ 500 or whatever, but also SC 100 from the architect standpoint, because hopefully that's going to change and include more of this overview. But I think you have to explain to employers, even when you're talking about the cross-platform stuff. Me as a cybersecurity architect, I understand all of these details and how all of these things are supposed to fit together. Am I pressing the buttons on the screens every single day? No. That's what the AZ500, the SC200, that level of certification out there. And those people, those people are there and they're required within inside the organization, just like the architect. And just know the roles and don't expect the architect to remember every single little button on the screen, because that's what the other people are for. I mean,
Yeah.
security is a team sport. That's all
And
it is.
I love what you just said. Instead of me doom casting, I'm going to do some uplifting casting. I'm finding now that security teams are becoming tighter now. They're becoming like the old school where this was your team. This you guys, whomever is on your team, you got to be tight now, and because the whole team's at risk, right? They don't look at the entire team, and the people that get paid the big bucks take on more risk, I guess. I don't know. But I let me look at it from a standpoint that you made a reference to for career longevity. If I have aspirations of being in a thought leadership from a cyber perspective, you got to think a little bit different because, you don't know what you don't know. And I'm a little bit hard headed. I haven't got a flu shot in years because I prefer to get my food old fashioned way. Hugging one of my grandkids or going around one of my friends' kids. I'm gonna get it that way, and I'm gonna build that. But a lot of times you don't know what you don't know until it happens. So you got to have a little bit of grace to these entities. You got to show due diligence. If they show due diligence in what they were trying to do with what they know, then you got to sort of let it ride. I think the scary part for me, and I won't say scary Halloween. I think the concerning part for me is that the amount of what we don't know. And I probably been over affected because I'm watching more of the industry news than I used to. And so maybe I'm picking up more of the bad vibes that are happening and rather than me purposely looking at the good stories that are coming out of this. And it's often because of the players' faces that we see. We see all the big important people out there talking about this deal. I am going to more security conferences, more of these informal mashups, things like ISACA, Cloud Security Alliance, ISSA. I remember all that. I'm going to these meetings now because I really want to do questioning to talk to people. What are you doing?
So you can't go with what's on the news because and there's only certain people I listen to because it's like, oh, this place was hacked into. It was an advanced persistent threat, whatever. Of course, everybody's going to blame it on the biggest threat actors out there because they did something stupid. They're trying to cover their own job and saying that it's something bigger than what it really was, right? Oh, look, I left the VNC server exposed on the internet, so that was my stupid mistake. But no, it's the advanced persistent threat, this threat actor or whatever. So that sounds better in the news, and it protects me, so it doesn't look like I made mistakes. So, like I said, I only listen to very few people out there on the internet about what's really going on with the different threats and so on.
Yeah.
And probably one of the biggest frustrations that I have out there is that, especially on news sites and other sites, I don't understand why they've never been able to figure out Microsoft Defender Antivirus versus Microsoft Defender for Endpoint. Drives me absolutely nuts that they don't know the difference between the two. So, like I said, you just have to be careful about listening about what's going on with people, protecting their jobs versus promoting their jobs was not really what was going on.
And that's why you have the Security Insights podcast, because we give it to you here. You can come here and ask us the hard questions and we'll give you the easy answer. Or you can ask the easy question, we'll give you a hard answer. That's what we do here. We're not going to get away from talking about specific, products, effectiveness, offerings in the thing, security partners. Today was one of those days that we come back, we sort of level set about where the show is going, where we're going to come in. And we definitely want more ideas of what topics, what products we should cover. So we're going to talk to Microsoft products. We're going to talk MDE. We're going to talk, MDO. We're going to talk Defender for Cloud. We're going to talk Azure AI Founder. We're going to talk Copilot. We're going to talk all these things. But when we get into it, we want to really talk about what is tactical and what is operational beneficial to our listeners to say, hey, did you know you should go out and do these things? Right? Because I asked Raw the question today, and he got the answer right. if you reverse polarities. Can you move your Microsoft Sentinel deployment to a different region? Frankly, you used to be a Sentinel expert back in the day when you and I first met. That's all we did. Can you move your
So
Sentinel?
let me ask Copilot.
And I did, and the answer he came back with was something that made I don't really have eyebrows. It made what my skin above my eyes go up, and it said, "Moving Sentinel to another region is not a trivial endeavor. Are you sure?" That was the response I got back. I was like, "That seems very emotional, like it's looking out for me." I'm like, "What? That moving your Microsoft Sentinel instance to another regional is not a trivial endeavor. Consider the reasons why you want to move it, and if you must, here's the way." I told him right about it. I'm like, oh crap! It
Did
it
you ask
told me,
why it was not trivial?
well, you cannot. Yeah, I did. You cannot move your Sentinel workspace because the log analytics workspace is pinned to the region. And now you and I've been doing Sentinel for years. So I'm like, that's not right. I can move my log analytics workspace. Cannot do it. And what I was trying to use is the Azure Resource Mover resource in Azure. So to our listeners, prove me wrong. Go out to Azure and see, and don't have a very mature Sentinel, because in the log analytics workspace, all of the artifacts are stored in there. Workbooks, notebook things, this, and that. You cannot move it. I tried. I said, I don't believe you. Whatever. I'm a Sentinel expert. Cannot do it. And
My assumption was it was going to be no, that you couldn't do it, but also you have to take into consideration, does the pricing change based upon where the data is stored?
it does. That's just Sentinel,
Right. So
one-on-one.
there's more to thinking that through.
Yeah. Now, what it did do is write me a very nice migration framework on how to do it via PowerShell, ARM templates, JSON, Bicep, and did it. So I took it and I ran it through two other models. I ran it through Grok. I ran it through ChatGPT. I might have ran it through Perplexity. And they all got within about 80, 90% of each other as far as to go. Obviously, Copilot is going to be closer. I don't know. Well, it's a Microsoft probably, but it was just closer to that. And maybe it was close because it seemed like I was talking to a peer who had the same amount of experience that I had. I didn't believe it.
It should have come back and said, you should have thought about this before you did the implementation.
Then I'd have looked over like somebody's punking me here. But I tried it though. I tried to use it and tried to move that workspace. You cannot do it. You cannot even do it in regions that are geographically close to each other because the logical and the fabrics application will allow you to do it. You cannot.
I'm also thinking about the connectors and all that stuff that are dealing with that stuff.
And that's embedded in the workspace. They said your best bet is to create another workspace and then transition your stuff out in these methods. And so
the thing is this is I'm not thinking because I knew that. I'm thinking about how the product actually works. So that's what you need to do with Azure Foundry, understand what's going on,
bingo,
the applications, and then you'll understand securing those applications.
And that's what you told me months ago. Go understand how the stuff works before you try to figure out how it works. And Rod told me the same thing. So I'm really getting into it. And we have some.
I'm just upset you didn't go to our Discord and ask that question, so the experts out there could have answered.
Oh, I put it on our Twitch channel. Nobody answered it. I'm getting Noodle to answer. Noodle, you better answer.
Yeah, I talked to him recently.
We got to get all the people. I think a lot of our listeners are listening to it after we finished, and they haven't realized we flipped over to Thursdays, even though we made the announcement. We'll get back to it. Like I said, we're gonna have a Seinfeld moment. We're gonna hit that inflation moment. We'll do it.
Are we gonna be back before Ignite gets here, or no? We're gonna have a show before Ignite.
Let me look at that. I do believe it.
Do we?
We do on the show on the 6th and the 20th. So
Rod, are we going to Ignite? I don't know yet.
I'm not going. I was on the list, but they don't need my services this year. So
Yeah, I think I got to go to New York. I think I got to present something up in New York. So I may miss Ignite. I may have to go. I'm presenting a Defender for Cloud and something else in New York. So I got to go do that. So we'll see. But hey, I'm liking the second show. I'm liking on us getting our feedback up under us to our listeners and our supporters and our future patrons, everything. We're going to be back. You're going to like the way that we evolve the show. We stay current. We do these things. We're not going to leave our roots. You know, the shirt may look a little bit different, but this is what we do. You know, we're all right. We are going to dedicate a show to Sentinel. We need to find somebody because Sentinel is evolving.
Big time.
It is the Sentinel data lake, small d, small l. It is the Sentinel graph, which is very eye-opening. And the power behind all of that is the Sentinel MCP server. Now, as I understand it, MCP stands for Messaging Content Protocol. And so that is, to our listeners, do a little homework. We're going to do some homework and come back. And it's one of the products that I took on when I used to be a GBB at Microsoft. That was my subject matter expertise arena. And it is affording me the opportunity to go back and try to reassert myself as a subject matter expert. All of us. It is amazing what they're trying to do. Now, will they pull it off? I don't know. We'll see. But that's another topic for another thing. So we'll see everybody back. Let's give a date to our next show. Our next show is going to be
November 6th.
The 6th of November. So everyone, thank you for your time. Thank you for your energy. Thank you for your patience and your and everything else. So we are the Security Insight Show. Franklin, Rodney, Edward. Until next time. Peace. Hey guys.